Hello, everyone. If you can hear me, let me know. I want to make sure my audio is working well. You can drop in the chat to let me know where you're at in the world. We're gonna give ourselves a few minutes to allow people to start coming in. I know sometimes time gets away from all of us, so I want to make sure everybody is getting enough time to get a chance to join. Give me a second here. Right now it's 11:30, well 31. So we'll start in about 5 minutes at 11:36 Central Time. This is where I'm at. Hello, Jojo. Hi, Dory. I'm actually not far from you. I'm in the Missouri City Sugarland area. Okay, we'll give it a couple more minutes. Again, I like to start just a few minutes, give people time to get their bearings and trying to join us. Okay. It's all right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. And as people are coming in, they'll just join in when they can. First and foremost, I want to thank you all who has joined us for dropping in on today's workshop, email marketing for nonprofits, helping you build relationships that last. So the premise behind today's workshop is to help kind of Demystify is one word, and decode ways to leverage email marketing in your nonprofit. I know a lot of times, we are using emails, for example, with newsletters are quite popular, sending out emails, and it kind of feels like just a bland experience, or may possibly be just a thing on the checklist to do, and we not really take time to understand and materialize a good plan that's needed for using your email or leveraging in the right way for not only just your donors but volunteers and just other peers and stakeholders in your audience that may be interested in your mission and what you're doing. So I'm going to offer a lot of information. Try to be clear, as concise as possible. If it's your first time stopping by one of my presentations, I'm very clear and to the point. I try not to be too fluffy with a lot of the information I provide. So, hopefully, a lot of this is very valuable for you. The session is recorded, so after the session is done, I will try to get it up as quick as possible to YouTube. So if you want to go back through, you can use or view the recorded presentation, and go over what information you may have missed or something you didn't quite understand. And I will also send out a copy of the slides as well. So you can have a copy for yourself and use it for your notes for later. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So, a little bit about myself. Again, my name is George Woodard. Your favorite web guy. It's a long story to that title, but kind of the web guy around a lot of different circles. I've been doing this for over a decade now, working with a lot of different companies, a lot of different organizations over the years in the nonprofit, government, public sector, B2B industries, home services, you name it. Work with a lot of different people over the years. So, this today's information is not just theory, it's battle tested information. So you're getting some good experience here for you today. And fun fact, I have built, hosted, supported, troubleshooted, unhacked, and everything you can think of, over 3,000 websites and counting in my career. So I've seen a lot when it comes to marketing, digital marketing, technology. I've seen it all pretty much, for the emergence of AI to when CRMs, email marketing started exploding, everything in between. So I've seen a lot. So you're getting some good valuable info. As far as your email goes, it's still a form of marketing that actually works. Believe this or not, a lot of people think you see a lot of these, clickbait type titles on videos or emails you may actually be getting that's saying email doesn't work. That is totally untrue. Email is still one of the oldest form of marketing that's out there, and it will be around a lot longer than a lot of people think. Reason being is, and it's not some mystifying idea, but it's really just simple as whenever you sign up for a new account for any service you can think of, Netflix, excuse me, Facebook, YouTube, if it's Vivint, if you have Vivint Home System, if you're with your banking online, like no matter what it is, if there's an online account, you have to use an email to sign up. And they utilize the email to actually market as well as inform you of whatever account, organization, whatever it is that you're a part of. So, email is still a form of marketing that actually works. The problem is for the ones who say it's dead is that they don't quite utilize it how it's supposed to be used. So that's what you're going to get out of this presentation, is to help you out developing ideas, some tips, tricks to help you out with your email marketing. And at the end, there's going to be a sample action plan that you can use to help you out with improving your chances for email marketing. So again, when you get the presentation when I send out the presentation slides, this will have the actual action plan in it for you. So first, building your foundation. You want to build out your email strategy. You want to always set the foundation, because a poor foundation is recipe for disaster if you're building a house. And when I use analogies, I like to use a home for a lot of different things. So in this case, when you're building the foundation of your home for your email strategy, you want to build it on these three pillars. First, it's relationship building, not just fundraising. So I want you to shift your mindset from viewing email as a tool that you would use for gathering donations and actually see it as a way to build and nurture meaningful connections and relationships with your supporters. So it's not just, hey, we're strapped for cash, send money. It's not that. Even if that is a initiative at the moment, you don't want to come off that way because that can be very cold. So what you want to do is focus more on building the relationship, providing more nurturing content. One of the best ways to entry level people into your organization is offering lead magnets. So if you have a checklist, I'm just throwing this out there as an example. So if you have a nonprofit or organization that supports those with mental health issues, personally, someone who deals with burnout, if you want to provide a checklist of 10 ways to help you with subsiding or helping out with your burnout. It's a good start into your email list. And along the way, with sending the initial email, sending the checklist, then along the way, you can add additional emails to help nurture the relationship, providing other value, providing additional content, whether you're doing podcast episodes or if you have blog articles that's relatable to the content within your lead magnet, that's a way. And you can always put sections in the email itself, related to donations or being a donor, so that's way to help nurture the relationship as well as keeping top of mind that you are a nonprofit, so fundraising is a part of your initiative. So shift your mindset away from just asking for money, but actually building, or and not from fundraising, but just building the relationship initially. Next up is essential elements before you send. So, excuse me, you want to identify first and foremost your unique value proposition. What makes you unique? What makes you stand out from the noise in the crowd? Define your voice. You want to get your bearings in how you speak to your audience. Excuse me. When you're having conversations, whether it's at expos or symposiums, or doing workshops, webinars, virtual meetups like this, you want to define how you speak and also what you support. And then for each of the types of communications, you want to also establish clear goals for those. If you're sending out an email, what is the goal of this email? Is it a newsletter email? Is it an email, for fundraising? You're having a special type of event coming up. Um, you may be doing a charity ball, whatever it may be, establish the clear goals for the specific email that you send out. And last but not least, the ROI potential. When you do it right, email marketing actually delivers $36 for every dollar spent. So for every dollar that you invest into your email marketing, in whatever way that may be, there's stats that show you get $36 back, and making it the most cost effective way of outreach for nonprofits. That tells you right there that if you do it right, it'll always return back to you in a way that'll be profitable for your organization. So when you're trying to build out your strategy, here's the foundational elements. These three pillars will get you started. Next up is your audience. You want to segment your audience or sort. Segmentation is a fancy word for sorting. You want to sort your audience into certain categories or buckets, to make sure that each of the emails that you send out, you remember from the previous slide, that each of the emails you send out have a specific goal. So if you organize your audience into specific categories, buckets, tags, whatever. Usually, when you're using CRMs, they're called tags or list. But if you're organizing them correctly or segmenting them into the particular path that they should be in, when you're setting the goals for each of the emails, that means those emails will be sent to the specific people in that audience. And here's a breakdown of what that looks like. So segmentation does matter. It increases your engagement by 74%. People who are getting emails that are more personalized to the message or the cause or maybe whatever level of engagement they are with your organization, show that they increases their engagement by 74% if you're sending out emails related to where they are or what they're trying to how they're trying to connect with your organization. It also boosts in conversion rates. So if you properly organize your audience within your email marketing tool or CRM, then you're known to have a better chance at converting them when it comes time to do XYZ, whether again, the goal. So if you're sending out an email for a new conference that's coming up that you're hosting and you want to get better rates and the conference has a specific audience, then if you're sending the email to, if you have we'll say like 2,000 people on your email, but about 400 of them are very good candidates or people who are most likely to attend the event. If you send it to just the 400, I'm sorry, you would get better conversion rates versus if you send it to your entire email list. I know more it's not more, but it's easier to just blast it out. But it's also better for your conversions as well as your numbers to send it out to a specific list or specific category of people because you see a higher conversion rates and it looks a lot more favorable for not only just the conversion rate but also for your email service provider because you're getting more opens and people are more likely to engage with your email. And then to the point of what I just said, it reduces your unsubscribes by 28%. So if you're sending out, again, you have 2,000 contact list and just every time you're sending an email, no matter what the goal is, you're blasting it to the 2,000 every time. If you're sending, we'll just say over a course of 30 days, if 20 of the emails are something that somebody is just not interested in, they may miss the other 10 that they would be interested in, or the two or three. But because you didn't properly segment it, then they're likely to actually unsubscribe from your email list. Thus, you're losing someone that may be valuable down the line if you had a proper strategy in place. So I hope that makes sense. And on the right hand side, there's a couple of segmentation categories. So donation history. So if they've been a donor, past or present, putting them in a category of donation history. You can even tailor it down further based on the amount. So if you have different donor circles, like the presidential level versus the silver level, etc., you could put that as another segmentation type. Frequency. So if you have some people based on your donor platform, if you have it set up to where they can donate monthly, that's one way. Or if it's biweekly, quarterly, or if they're a one-time donor, however that may work, you can tailor it down even further. Next up is the engagement level, active versus inactive. It's just kind of plain and simple. If you're sending out, we'll say, 2 emails a week, and of those two over a 6-month period, if someone's engaging with about 50 to 60%, believe it or not, that's actually really good. So that means, you want to put them in one category of someone who is more likely to engage with your audience versus someone who may just do 10 to 20%. And that can be kind of tough with trying to keep them engaged. So that's one way to look at it. And then another is interest areas. So let's say if your organization has multiple different programs, going back to the mental health part, you support people who may be dealing with burnout, someone who may be ADHD, someone who might have substance issues. There's different categories there that you could segment, or someone, that they may know that may deal with any of those types. You can segment your audience into those different interest areas because the content you may be sending out might not be for the 2,000, but for the 2 or 300 that's for that specific interest area, it will be more beneficial to send the email to them versus the others who are not in that interest area. I hope that makes sense. Then also volunteer status. Again, you don't want to leave your volunteers hanging. So, volunteers are essential to a lot of nonprofits, and you want to, stay engaged with them as well. Whether it's someone who regularly volunteers, maybe 2 hours, to 5 hours a week, or maybe they are a part of an or another organization or a company that is that has a goodwill program that is, don't or not donating, but their employees maybe volunteering once or twice a month if you're doing like a food drive or charity event or something like that. Just letting them know, like, hey, we need some hands, or there's an event coming up and we would love to have you back, whatever that may look like for you, but you still want to stay in contact with your volunteers. And then last is geographic location, where they may be located. You may be an organization that can host a major conference, and the conference is going to be in, we'll say, Northwest, somewhere in the Northwest. You can send out emails specifically to that audience, maybe even early bird type, to let them know, hey, we're going to be in your backyard. We would love to have you to join. Here's an early bird special for you specifically. You sign up, you get discount or whatever type of incentive you have in there. But that's just some different ways that you can segment out your audience, and that will help out with your numbers so it can start looking more favorable when you're doing outreach. And then next up, once you've done your segmentation, once you've built your foundation, you want to start crafting messages that connect. Bland messaging falls on deaf ears. I'm just going to keep it honest. You don't want to send out too much of a generic message, but you don't want to get too detailed unless you're sending to a specific segmented audience. So the goal of this next part of the presentation is just to help you out with crafting messages that actually connect with your audience. So you want to focus on writing emails people actually want to read. I know that sounds very common sense, but you'll be shocked. You want to write emails that people want to read. You want to give them substance that they would actually take advantage of. You don't want to just keep spamming them, because that's eventually what you're doing, spamming them with emails that they're not going to read. They're just going to see maybe even the subject line and say, no, that's okay. We're not going to open that. Or again, like I said, they might end up unsubscribing from your emails. So the three things of the email that you want to focus on first is the irresistible subject lines. Use your subject lines to create curiosity, convey urgency, highlight the benefits of whatever the email is going to provide for them. And you want to do this in 50 characters or less if possible. And if extremely possible, please personalize them. Like myself, I'm a Mac user, but most email providers do this. If you have the little, box that pops up to show you that's a new email coming through, that is your first line of defense. Make sure your subject matter, and in that what they call preview text, the first few words of the email, make sure you have that dialed in, because that is what creates the curiosity or convey the urgency of them actually wanting to stop whatever it is that they're doing to read the email that you're sending. Same thing for mobile. If you have mobile devices, they have the notification boxes that come up on the home screen or that pop up while they're maybe in the middle of writing an email. You want to make sure that the subject line is irresistible. Like, hey, it catches my attention. I think I'm going to stop what I'm doing right now and actually read this email that this person or organization has sent. Next up is compelling content. You want to tell stories, and let me back up. So with the compelling content, now that you've created the subject line that makes them want to stop what they're doing, now the next step is to actually write or have an email that keeps them emotionally engaged, and that's what this compelling content is talking about. Telling stories that emotionally connect. Use clear conversational language. Unless your email or your organization is tailored towards a highly um, personalized audience, is the best word I can think of. Audience that is very specialized in certain knowledge or certain content, you're able to talk certain jargon or certain language to them where they can understand what you're referring to. But For most audiences, you want to just use clear conversational language. The feeling that they should get is that they're reading a letter from a friend. Just plain and simple. Show them, specific examples that's relatable in the email. And in here in the second one, I'm gonna show you a few different email templates that'll help you out. But yes, you want to use clear language. Make it clear and concise. These days people are not reading as much, so there's a argument versus I mean it's an argument between using long form email versus short form. That's really one of those testing things you need to do with your audience, and it's not an every email thing. Some short emails that have a short, simple message, perfect. And then some emails may be more dedicated to longer form because there is additional content or additional information you need to explain. So it really just varies. But whichever one you choose, make sure you use clear conversational language and make sure it's concise and tells the stories that actually connect with your audience. And last but not least, action inspiring CTAs. Make one clear request, use action verbs, create urgency without pressure. I know FOMO, fear of missing out, is a big thing. Creating that urgency there, but don't just hammer it over their head that they should do it. It can be detected from your readers that when you're trying to beat them up into signing up for something versus, giving them that free will to make the decision, but creating content that actually connects, which is the previous point, compelling content that helps them understand that they have a problem and you have a solution, or you're an organization that is relatable to what they believe in, that will compel them to want to either volunteer, donate, or both. So you want to create that urgency. And if you're adding any type of CTAs, make sure they stand out. You don't want them to blend in with your email. Contrasting colors always works. The typical blue, red, green, that trifecta is very helpful. If it's within your branding colors, let me put that out there. If it's within your branding colors, you can use that or some variation of those. But brighter colors is what I'm trying to get to. Using those type of colors will help you stand out when you're sending out those emails. And on the next couple pages, I'm gonna show you a couple of templates that actually convert. And these are kind of a starter to help you out with crafting emails. So the first one is a email template for a welcome series. If you're sending out emails related to like a newsletter type, this is usually the first email that they get. Or if you have a lead magnet, ebook, checklist, sign up for a webinar, the introductory email usually is laid out like this. It's kind of the red carpet, or like again, I use the analogy of a house. This is your front doormat, so it welcomes the person into your group. It gives them some type of belonging, a sense of welcoming when they receive this initial email. So it's laid out in a very visual way. You see the CTA at the bottom, it's contrasted so they can actually um, tell the difference or know what next step will be good for them. And it's very clean, very concise. Don't mind the text. This is all dummy text. But it's clean, concise, clear, and to the point. Welcome. We are glad you're here. And yeah, it's very, very simple. This is the type of welcome series or introductory email you want to send. Next up is what's called an impact email. So let's say your nonprofit is not yours. I'll talk on one that I work with. I work with a food bank nonprofit here in Houston, and they send out impact reports often. And they talk about, how much food has been served during the month, how many people who have actually taken advantage of the services and the food that they offer, whether it's donations they have raised, any type of impacts like that that is showing a positive impact of their efforts that they're doing. That's the type of email that's sent here. It's a full report laying out visuals. You got your charts, your graphs, showing the smiling faces there. That it kind of relates, and those smiling faces have testimonials. Again, with that being a food bank nonprofit, one of the patrons could tell a story about how they may have been laid off, and then the food bank was a very helpful resource to help get them food with feeding their family, that type of impact report. These are very great back to the segmented audience one. If you're reaching out in a capacity of looking for more donorship, impact reports are great because what it tells the reader is, you're asking for donations indirectly, but what you're really telling them is we are serving our audience faithfully, and the service that we provide is actually providing help to those who need it. And this is concrete evidence to show you that what we do actually works. So for them, the emotional connection is, I actually feel better about wanting to help or donate or whatever to the particular organization, because I feel that my efforts, my money, whatever the donation may be, will actually be used properly. So this is why these type of emails would convert for you. And last but not least is event invitations. You got a big event coming up, whether it's um, a charity ball, some type of fundraising charity event. Maybe you're doing a car wash for local, XYZ organization, or people who need help with whatever it may be. This is the type of email you want to send out. Join us. You're invited. It's personal. You're letting them know, like, hey, we want you to come. Lays out the name of it, lays out the name of the event, lays out the name of the charity itself, date, time, location, and the CTA here calendar. This is a very useful CTA, because what this does is, if they click on it, it'll actually add it to their calendar. So that type of usefulness within the event email, the invitation email, is helpful because someone like myself, who can be very absent-minded, I click this button, it's added to my calendar, and I don't have to worry about it. It may take me 2 minutes to set up, maybe add an alert. I might have to add my wife because she normally accompanies me to a lot of these events. So I add her on there as an attendee, so it'll alert her as well, so we can remember, I need to get the babysitter out. We need to go think about our attire for the evening, whatever it may be. But having this type of an email with that type of CTA in it is very helpful, because it helps people to help set up reminders right there on the spot. Hey, I need to do this now so I won't forget. So that's those type of emails. Now, with these type of emails, we're in the new age. I like to say new age of AI being such a big thing. You're thinking about automation. You don't want to do a lot of this stuff manually, because it can be very time consuming. So it's always great to use automation, and using automation helps you work smarter, not harder. um, One of the things that I talk about a lot with different people about AI is, the whole rage bait or clickbait about, is it taking jobs and da da da. Not directly. AI is not coming in for that type of thing. What it does, it helps people who are doing certain jobs. It helps them work a lot smarter. In this case with email marketing, you're setting up your CRM with automated email sequences to do the nurturing process for you, rather than you actually sending out emails on your own. So the thing you want to look at is timing is one of the best things, and the automation will help um, improve that type of timing. So you're gathering your data and understanding when and how you should send these emails. Some of the information: optimal sending times, Tuesday through Thursday. That's usually the highest engagement that I've seen. Mondays, we're just coming back from the weekend. We got our mind set on stuff, and we're getting probably meetings back to back. So you're not going to be paying attention to emails. Friday, by then, most of us, and sometimes depending on who you are, Thursday, you're already checked out. So it's like I don't really care what's going on in my email, so I'm gonna look over that. So Tuesday to Thursday, and personally Tuesday or Wednesday, and even specifically Wednesday, because that midweek catches a lot of people. That's a lot of kind of like a downtime for many. It's a very coasting type of day, and it's usually not scheduled with a lot of events. So that Tuesday, Thursday is usually best, but Tuesday, Wednesday is really, really, really good. 10 to 11 a.m. and 1 to 2 is the best open rates. 10 to 11, you're coming out of that morning um, kickstart, whether it's meetings or just getting to the office, getting your day started. So at 10 to 11 time, it's like, okay, I have time to actually process a few things. Let me check some email. And the 1 to 2, right after lunch, but not too late in the day where I'm like, okay, my brain's fried. So that 1 to 2 time frame is another good one for you. And again, test. Again, these are optimal times based on data collected, from a bunch of different sources, as well as sources I've worked with. But test for your audience. Your audience may be different. Some people, in some industries that I've seen, that late night is actually better. That 6 to 9 o'clock. For a lot of people, that 6 to 9 o'clock is, if you're like me, you got kids, so it's like that 6 to 9 is the family time, dinner time, and by about 8:30, 9 o'clock, house is kind of quiet. I got some time to think through my tomorrow, maybe, catch up on a couple emails that I may have missed, and that time works for me. But look for your audience. Some maybe earlier. Also the time zone consideration. Your organization may support nationwide, but a concentration of your audience may be in the central time zone. So if your your office is on the West Coast, but your concentration of your audience is in the Central Time Zone, then that's something to think about. You send an email at like 9 o'clock in the morning, it's already 11 there. So you're still catching them in the optimal sending time, but it may or may not work. So you always test for your specific audience. And some simple automation sequences. These are just automated automations that you could use that will help you out with keeping your audience engaged. First is new subscriber welcome series, 3 emails at minimum. Sending is out, someone signs up on your website through your CRM. They sign up to join your newsletter. You send them out a welcome series just to kind of prime them for what's to come. Next, first time donor, thank you. First time an individual or a company decides to donate to your cause, send a thank you immediately. Set up an automation to do this is very, very important because it sends out the email as soon as they hit confirm. Next, re-engagement for inactive supporters. Like I mentioned before, you might have someone who in 30 days may read like a day or two worth of your emails. That's low engagement, but people, life happens for a lot of people. So, re-engaging with them, letting them know, hey, we missed you. What's going on? Or we missed you. Hey, here's what's been going on with our organization that you may have missed. And then last but not least, event follow-up. This is very, 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 very important. You do conference, webinar, host a workshop, whatever it may be. Excuse me. Follow up after. Um, there's a common saying in our circles with the consultants, there's fortune in the follow-up. Believe it or not, that's completely true, not just within consulting but just in industry in general, that if you do the follow-ups, that actually helps you out big time. So in this particular case, if you have an event, whatever type of event is, follow up immediately. Let them know, thank you for attending, thank you for coming. Or even the people who may not have made it, if you have like an kind of like a check-in process with your event, and people who did sign up but did not attend, even follow up with them. Hey, we missed you. We had a great time at XYZ event. This is what you missed. And again, funnel them into a sequence that follows with them, emphasizing whatever points or content they may have consumed, or anything that may have happened during the event that will tie into your cause. Set that sequence on autopilot. One good way to do this is, for every event that you host, have 6 to 8 emails already set up that will be sent out to them, one immediately after the event has happened, and then follow up every few days to kind of keep that engagement going for that type of event. So it's pertinent to use automation because it allows you to work a lot smarter, and you're not having to figure out the different emails that you need to send every single time. So it's always great to use that. And then whenever you're sending out these emails, you always have to track your data. I say a lot of times, if you ever work on me, the devil's in the data. You want to track your data because your impact goes beyond just your opens and clicks. We're so bombarded with information. You want to make sure you're reading and comprehending the correct information that's relatable to your organization. So when it comes to measuring your data, you want to actually measure what really, really, really matters. So first and foremost, I'll start with the others and come back to open rate. So I want to talk about the click through rate. What this means is you're sent the email, someone opens it, and you have a CTA, a link, or something within the email that if they click on it, it takes them somewhere else. So it tells you a percentage of how many people are actually clicking within the email that you're sending, and it measures the content relevance. And it also measures how effective your call to actions are too. Conversion rate. This is the bucket of people who actually take action on said thing within the email that they should do. So going back to the event, again, you got 2,000 people on your mailing list. Let's say you have a conference coming up, 1,000 of them would be best to actually attend. Well, in a perfect world, we want to say all 1,000 are going to sign up, but we're going to be completely transparent and honest and say we're looking at, out of 1,000, maybe let's say 30, maybe 40 signups would be great off an initial email. So the people who actually sign up from the initial email is the converters, or people who convert. And these are the percentage of people who actually do what you desire with the email that you send, which is the ultimate success metric. And the other is the unsubscribe rate. Unsubscribes happen. I try to coach people to let them know it's not personal. We are a very um, information overload age. So, people, the whole concept of inbox zero, if you've ever heard of it, people are cleaning up their inboxes, which I understand. I'm not going to reveal how many emails I have in some of my inboxes, but it's atrocious. But, at over time, I try to unsubscribe from those emails that are not, they're not any longer valuable to me, and I don't want to take space up on someone's mailing list for that reason. So in your case, you want to send out the emails that are valuable. You remember what I said earlier, to the segmented audience that is going to read said email, whatever the goal is for that email. And doing that, it helps keep this rate, the unsubscribe rate, extremely low. Now, if you start getting unsubscribes, again, don't panic. If you keep this below about I say 1 to 2%, this is healthy. That, believe it or not, this is very healthy to have a low rate like that. Now, if it starts creeping up in double digits, there's questions you need to ask. Are we spamming people? Are we sending again? You have 2,000 people on your mailing list. Segmentation can help avoid a high unsubscribe rate because you're sending the emails that people want to read to the right folks. So if you have 2,000 people on your list and you're sending the email every time to 2,000 people, you're going to get unsubscribed straight up. And with that type of email cadence, you're going to get a high number of unsubscribes because if people are receiving a constant stream of emails from you that are not relatable to what they're trying to take advantage of, then eventually they're not going to see the value in your email list and they're going to unsubscribe. So that's where this comes in. And the open rate is why I want to talk about last, is because open rate, plain and simple, is the amount of people of your email. I mean, the amount of people on your email list that actually open the emails. This is not deliverability. You know, if you have a deliverability, that means the emails are getting to their inbox. The open rate is the actual rate at which people open the emails. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about this last is because this number is slowly starting to become, I'm not going to say irrelevant, but something I would not be too keen on keeping important, because a lot of email service providers now are have automation built into their platforms, the Gmail, Outlook, that I know for sure because I have a lot of clients that use those platforms. They have automations built in where when you send an email to them and it lands into Outlook or Google system, they have bots that actually will open the email, scan it, and sometimes the click-through rate can be a little bit challenging to measure. They would click on some of the links within the email to verify that it's not spam, malicious, or anything like that. That's how it determines the health of your emails and determine if your emails are actually being delivered. I mean that type of security system in place helps determine the legitimacy of your emails that are being sent to their customers on their platform. And also, it helps cut down on the amount of malicious emails that are coming through. So, when it comes to open rate, take it with a grain of salt. You know, you might send out 1,000 emails and you might get an open rate of like 50 to 60%. That sounds extremely great. But look at the trend, and this goes not just for open rate, but for all of these. Look at the trend when you're sending out emails. How often are your emails being open? I will say, you know, I'm just throwing them out there. If you're sending over a course of 6 months, if you're sending out a regular cadence of emails, 1 to 2 per week or bi-weekly, and your open rate is consistently hitting a high number, their chances are is that the bots themselves are actually opening your emails. So what I would do is then look at the click-through rate. Now, so if you're, again, over that 6-month period, if you get like a 60% open rate, but maybe your click-through rate is in like 3 or 4% range, now that's the actual, I would say that's a legitimate number of people who are actually opening or reading the emails that you're getting and not bots. So if you look at the comparison between those two numbers, that will give you a better understanding of what your audience, who within your audience are actually reading your emails. Again, the conversion rate is, that's the golden metric. You know, that's the number you really want to hit. And again, compare it to over that 6-month period. You know, you may be, in 6 months you're having a 60% open rate, but if your click through and your conversion rate are in the 3 to 5% range, that's a very low conversion rate. Then that would tell you like, okay, there's not a lot of people who are actually reading the emails, and these same consistent people that are clicking are actually converting. So that means your open rate is kind of skewed. So that's why I say you want to be cognizant of the other numbers and not just focusing on one number, because it'll tell the entire story. So, when you measure what really matters, now you want to create a plan. Your next steps is to actually create an action plan that will help you become successful. And I'll give you this sample plan. I'll go through it a little bit high level here, but again, I'll send out the slides to this presentation so you can go through and look at this yourself. So this week, this is a sample plan. You know, you're welcome to, what I like to say, season the taste, how it works best for you. But this week, you know, you can look over your metrics. And if you haven't sent out an email in a while, this is the best time to actually create one. Send out a segmented email to your audience, and then check out your welcome sequence. If you have one, it'd be maybe a good time to set one up. This month, do a basic welcome automation. So if you don't have a welcome email set up, this is a perfect time to set up an entire welcome series. So if you have a on your form, if you have a on your website, if you have a form that helps that allows people to sign up for your newsletter, this is a perfect time to set up a welcome automation. As soon as they hit submit, it'll send them an email and say, "Hey, thanks for joining. Welcome to our tribe," et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and then add 3 or 4 more emails on the back end of that that'll follow up with them to keep them engaged. And then you can keep adding emails to it. I mean, and the cadence is up to you. I would say no more than 2 or 3 emails a week. Depending on the engagement of your audience, you may could dial that back to 1 to 2 per week. But again, test, see how it works. Test a new subject line for this month. See if the subject line that you've been sending, what type of open rates they look like, or engagement or click through, and then try a new one. There with segmentation, you can also do A/B testing. Excuse me, you can send. Maybe you have 1,000 people on your mailing list. Send half one type of subject line, send another half a different one. See what type of engagement you get that way. That's another way. Uh, Implement a template. One of the templates that I've gone over in the previous slides. Try, if you have an event coming up, give it a shot with that template. You might not necessarily design it how that one was, but give it spruce up the layout of your template to help match what was in those previous slides. And then something to look for this quarter. Think about segmentation. You want to categorize your audience to people who will actually participate in your email list, and think about a segmentation system. Create a content calendar. I talked about this a while back on LinkedIn. Is creating a content tree. Taking a concept. Each branch is a different piece of content, and then going from there and creating more content to help create a lot of content in a short amount of time. And then, of course, analyze, test. I mean, look at your data, review your data, and tweak your strategy. A/B testing is what it's commonly called, but just look at your data, see what the story tells you within your data, refine your strategy, and go from there and keep it going. All right, fun part. Now we're up for Q&A. We got, I'll say about 10, let's say 10, 12 minutes for a few questions. I'll leave the floor open. If you want to drop a couple questions within the chat, it would be greatly appreciated. And whatever it may be, if it's about today's presentation, something you may need clarification on, or you have an idea about something we can answer, feel free. Or if it's anything marketing related, drop it right there in the chat and we can definitely answer. And I'll leave the floor open for a few minutes to give you guys some time to drop some questions in. All right. Any, guess we don't have any questions, maybe? Okay. I'll give it another minute or two. Maybe someone's typing still. My pleasure, Dory. I'm glad you dropped in with us. I hope you stay dry. I know we're supposed to be getting some storms here. My kids and my wife and I, we all went to Surfside Beach this past weekend, and it rained on us for a brief minute, but we enjoyed it. So I know there's supposed to be some more rains. They're talking about hurricanes and stuff like that. So please be safe. Um, All right, I guess there are no questions. So we will wrap it up. Okay. Well, I want to say thank you all for attending today. Appreciate you guys' patience. Thank you, Lori. I'm glad it was very helpful. And my email is there. My contact info is there. My website's there. So if you have any questions that may come up later, or just some ideas or anything that you need help with, feel free to reach out. I am an open book, willing to help out. I offer free 20-minute strategy sessions. So if there's something going on with your organization and you need help with trying to think through a few things, there's a form on my website. Fill it out, and there'll be a box that you can add in. Just first of all, that you came to the TechSoup meeting, and also you can let me know, and I can help you out with any other questions. Hold up. JoJo said this can be overwhelming. Where to start? Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. Digital marketing in general is very overwhelming. Again, I've been at this for it's over a decade, more precisely close to 15 years, and I enjoy what I do, but some days it can get overwhelming. Um, One of the best pieces of advice as far as where to start is take a look at your goals. That's Believe it or not, that's something, and this is not only advice that I've gained from theory, but just from pure execution and also pure experience. Working with small mom and pop shops all the way up to I work with some 200 plus $1 million companies. And one of the biggest glaring issues that I've recognized is that there's not a clear set of goals put in place. Keen example is a B2B tech company I was working with recently. And they're kind of a scrappy startup, but they're doing well financially, but they're kind of just throwing darts at a dartboard, seeing what would stick. And they brought me on to help out with some website optimization work. And one of the very first questions I asked was, what are the intended goals with the website? What are you looking to accomplish? That type of question. And you'll be shocked. And I'm talking down to just your regular everyday operational, all the way up to the C-suite. Nobody could give a clear answer. So that's where I would start at first. Lay out, if you don't have any, lay out your goals. If you do, revisit them. See if they're actually relevant, one, and two, if they're not, nix them. Don't waste time trying to contemplate, maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. Just cut it. If something is just not working or hasn't worked in the past, I wouldn't waste time on trying to retest that theory. Just nix it, moving on to the next goal, or create a whole new goal. And don't I'm guilty of this not only in my professional life, but my personal life. Don't swing for the fence on the first try. Start simple. Going back to the action plan right here. We want to try to knock it out the park and hit 100%, the first go around. Just start simple. Just create one, at the this week, that this week list. Review your welcome email. Like, does it to you, does it seem engaging? And another thing, and I actually should not have said that. I should say more of the people who are in your audience, does it seem engaging to them? Because you are not your customer, as I like to say. You're not your ideal client. So maybe reach out to someone, to the tip of reviewing your welcome email. Here's a tip for you. So if you review the welcome email, you're thinking about starting over in that regard of trying to re-engage your audience. Reach out to some people in your audience, people you might have a good connection with. A good way to start is recent clients, or someone who just recently started engaging with your organization, and ask them, I'm thinking about creating a some type of series of emails that'll be a help for whatever topic that you're trying to do. And I have 1 to 2 emails I want to start out with. Would you mind just reviewing them and give me feedback on what you think? send those emails to them, let them have a chance to look them over, ask for specific feedback. Don't get the, hey, this is great. No, ask for something specific. What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? This is called user testing. Getting the feedback from them to understand, exactly what your ideal audience, your ideal client is looking for in those emails. And that will put you light years ahead of the competition for creating engaging emails, because you're getting specific pointed feedback directly from the source, the people that you're trying to attract and nurture, and they're telling you what they're looking to hear from. That's a cheat code that a lot of people don't take advantage of. So if you reach out to them, ask them those questions, send them the content that you have. Again, it doesn't have to be the whole series, just one or two emails, and that will at least get you started or get you an idea of how you should create your emails going forward, and just tweaking, check the data, tweak it, check the data, and that gets you better and better and better and better. And do that again. You don't have to knock it out the park the first go around. Be completely honest, your first couple emails are going to be trash. Just being honest. But that's good because you're getting the feedback you need to become better. A bigger cheat code to that would be, get I'll say about 3 to 4 people in your audience, people you trust, that are clients or people who engage with your organization. Get them on a Zoom call. Use AI to actually record and transcribe the Zoom call, and then take the transcript, put it into ChatGPT, and also take the feedback that they provide and ask ChatGPT and provide ChatGPT or any AI, which is Claude, which is one I like to use, and put in one of the emails or two of the emails that you had them review. Put all that information in the ChatGPT and ask it for an email series to provide for you. That is another cheat code. That way, you would actually cut down what I was saying earlier, working smarter, not harder. You would cut down on the time of actually getting those emails back out the door to the audience that you're trying to attract. So that use some of that information. Again, the session is recorded, so I know that's a lot of information I just gave you in a short amount of time. So you can go back and listen again. But I really, really hope that helps you out. That's a good question. Very good question, Jojo. Anybody else? Oh, I think everybody else jumped. So it's just you and I. All right, cool. I'm glad you enjoyed that, Jojo. Again, my contact info is here in the slides. If you have any other questions, anything else come up, feel free to reach out. I'm glad to help. Hope you have a good one.